Morning people, welcome back to F Politics. The extent to which Buffy the Vampire Slayer prepared me for working in politics without me even realizing it was happening can never be overstated, because the episode that I just watched, called Gingerbread, aired in January 1999, yet it almost perfectly explains the riots that we saw in the UK this summer, a quarter of a century later. I'm talking about the episode where
somebody killed 2 little kids. My mom found the bodies during patrol last night.
And the similarities with the real world in terms of how that played out are crazy. Because in the UK, the lives of 3 small girls were taken by a 17-year-old boy in Southport whose parents were immigrants. In the weeks that followed, anti-immigration riots spread across the UK. Minorities were targeted, one was pulled from his car, one was attacked by 20 people in a park. They tried to firebomb a mosque and burn down a hotel that had refugees inside. And they were spurred on by people like Tommy Robinson, members of the Reform Party like Nigel Farage, Lee Anderson, who still defend those rioters to this day.
Keir Starmer locks people up who say nasty things on Facebook.
And in Buffy, this leads to the older generation targeting minorities, including their own children. For example, goths.
I was attacked. My dad, his friends, they're taking people out of their homes.
Witches, which in the show is very much coded towards LGBT.
I said get your coat, witch.
And even slayers.
Mom, don't!
Now, because it's a vampire show, obviously it's described in supernatural terms, but listen to how Giles explains what's going on, and imagine he's talking about one of the politicians who incited the riots in Southport.
Some demons thrive by fostering hatred and persecution amongst the mortal animals. Not by destroying men, but by watching men destroy each other. And they feed us our darkest fear and turn peaceful communities into vigilantes.
And Buffy's mum ends up leading the charge against minorities. And listen to the way she describes it, because that should also sound familiar to you.
And how many of us have been too afraid to speak out?
Which is another way of saying that political correctness has gone mad and nobody's saying what they're really thinking. And so it needs somebody who's willing to explicitly blame minorities.
For too long, we've been plagued by unnatural evils.
Again, unnatural is coded for LGBT and anybody who doesn't conform.
Sorry, did I make you smudge your eyeliner? People like him gotta learn a lesson.
But Buffy's mum goes full Make America Great Again, take our country back like Nigel Farage.
This isn't our town anymore. It belongs to the monsters and the witches and the slayers. I say it's time for the grown-ups to take Sunnydale back.
And you can hear the generational divide in there as well. Like the younger generation are into all this weird, progressive, accepting stuff, and it's up to the older generation to stand up for traditional values.
I say we start by finding the people who did this and making them pay.
And it starts with a locker raid in the school.
Oh man, it's Nazi Germany and I've got Playboys in my locker.
With Principal Snyder explicitly celebrating that they are using this tragedy to roll back on human rights.
This is a glorious day for principals everywhere. No pathetic whining about students' rights.
I just took 3 kids away. Confiscated my books.
Remember how the Tories reacted to the Black Lives Matter protest that followed George Floyd?
We do not want to see teachers teaching their white pupils about white privilege. Any school which teaches these elements of critical race theory as fact is breaking the law.
They literally said that it was illegal to teach about white privilege, so they used the violence of a minority of people at those protests as an excuse to restrict what children can learn.
Those books have no place in a public school library, especially now. Any student can waltz in there and get all sorts of ideas.
And with the strong hints that they're targeting people in the LGBT community, she's pushing the idea that learning about being gay will somehow make kids gay. Again, this is all stuff we're still dealing with today. There's also a hint that oppression can lead to internalized bigotry, where the victims of oppression end up blaming themselves for living their own lives.
Sorry, Will. If it wasn't for me, none of this would have happened.
But when it comes to the core issue of keeping kids and people in general safe, this was the attitude of Buffy's mum.
I mean, you patrol, you slay, evil pops up, you undo it, and that's great. But is Sunnydale getting any better? Are they running out of vampires? You don't have a plan. You just react to things. It's bound to be kind of fruitless.
But her solution to the fact that bad things will occasionally happen was to look for a scapegoat, an easy answer to a complex problem. Like in Southport, they saw that the person who committed the crime had immigrant parents, therefore immigrants must be the problem, so we attack immigrants. Yet Lucy Letby, she was the nurse who took out 8 babies, yet we didn't hear Tommy Robinson saying we should start rounding up nurses. Because complex problems almost never have quick and easy solutions. They take real work. and Angel helps Buffy out on this point.
I do know it's important to keep fighting.
But we never.
Never win. That's not why we fight. We do it because there's things worth fighting for. Those kids, their parents.
And that's the point. If these people actually cared about those kids and their parents, they would try and find an answer that would actually solve the problem. Were there warning signs that were missed in terms of that kid's behavior? Did he have mental health issues? They wouldn't have tried to burn down the parents' neighborhood. But the point about the parents gives Buffy an idea.
What do we know about these kids?
What?
Facts, details. Where do they go to school? Who are their parents? What are their names? We know everything about their deaths. We don't even know their names.
How many of the people rioting in the streets do you think even knew the names Alice da Silva Aguiar, Bebe King, and Elsie Stankham, the 3 children they were supposedly rioting in the name of? Very few, because it was never about them. They simply used that tragedy as an excuse to express their hatred. And as Buffy points out, this keeps happening, because when they tried to research the kids...
Those are the same kids.
1899, Utah, 2 children, rural community torn apart by suspicion. There were more articles. Every 50 years.
Because politicians have always used people's genuine fears to manipulate them against whoever they don't like. Like with the Salem witch trials, where they were simply burning women they didn't like.
Dozens of others are persecuted by a righteous mob. It's happened all throughout history. Happened in Salem.
There's also a hint at how difficult it is to de-radicalize the people who've been indoctrinated by these politicians, because they form communities amongst each other where they only listen to each other.
You have to kill the bad girl.
This has been so trying. You've been such a champ.
Oh, you too, Joyce.
We should stay close, have lunch.
Oh, I'd like that. How nice.
Mom, dead people are talking to you. Do the math.
Just so we're clear, you guys know you're nuts, right?
But the suggestion with this episode is that the only way to break that spell is to expose those politicians for the monsters they really are, and how little they actually care about the people they claim to champion.
Make the demons appear in their true form, which with any luck will negate their influence.
Again, it aired 25 years ago, and it's explaining the events of this summer. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'm Femi. Make sure you follow F Politics so politics doesn't F you. Have a great week.